grabbed off of Twitter. So, as you guys may know, what's been going on in Portland right now and in Seattle right now is that they have released the feds on these riots. And I want to make one thing clear, that in the last video that we talked about, where the feds had first been deployed to Portland, I want to be clear, like, I don't support rioting. It's not something that I'm a fan of necessarily. I think it does detract from the actual movement itself. If people really wanted to, I think but I also understand why people are rioting. But I think the thing I'm trying to get at is, while there is a right and a wrong here, kind of, but at the same time, what I would prefer personally is that people just shut things down as opposed to burning things down. Like, I think the physical infrastructure, shut it or burning that stuff to the ground, is not as effective as stopping the economy and preventing business from happening, because that's really what can be more beneficial to society in terms of affecting change in the long run. So, Issam, what do you? I can stop there. What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think if you actually want, the whole point of this isn't I'm just surprised how many, that's how they get you, right? They'll say, oh,
right.
It's a riot. Everybody's bad. Like, these thousands and thousands of thousands of people have nothing to do with, like, not wanting, like, the police. It's moved on. I saw somebody say that it's interesting. We're jumping all over topics here. Crossroads between, like, kind of the racism part of all this stuff and that injustice,
right.
and then, like, the economic injustice, with, like, everybody's unemployed. So many people unemployed, and, like, so many people don't have healthcare in the midst of unemployment. So many people are losing their houses. They're going to become homeless. So there's, like, that intersection, and it's like, yeah, none of these people are protesting. They're all just rioting, like, burning shit to the ground. And it's just like, yeah, some of these people, like, work at those businesses, or, like, used to work at those.
Right. And I feel bad for those people. It might be like mom and pop shops who are working at that have those businesses, and then you have rioters coming in, and I'm like, those mom and pop shops aren't the problem. And
we still haven't talked about blue leaks, but there is blue leaks. We got to cover this at some point.
That's also true. Like, and I know that I actually wanted to get to it. I think there was just so much to cover this week, but I think it's very important for us to do a continuation of the blue leak story, just because it does seem like there's a lot of right-wing movements that have infiltrated the protests and are committing a lot of the violence that's going on within these protests. And so you do have to take that into consideration. You can't just look at this in such a binary view that, oh, it's just the same people who are protesting that are also doing the rioting necessarily. But I understand why you would.
I was listening. I like to kind of see, like, different views and stuff. So I turned on Joe Rogan with was it Ben Shapiro?
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, I was listening to that, and he had
God.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, all these people, and they were talking about, like how, they said, okay, finally, like, Breonna Taylor, and, like, it didn't even start with Breonna Taylor. I think it started with George Floyd, the big riot started with George Floyd.
Right.
And then, like, okay, finally we can have this conversation about, like, police brutality. Finally we can have this conversation about, like, all this stuff. But then, like, the rioters ruined everything. Like, the looters ruined everything. And, like, they don't want to listen. And it's just like, what are you talking about? This is like, what, like, okay, like, I don't know, if you're going to make broad statements about every single person who's holding a sign, that doesn't, isn't that shutting down the conversation immediately? I don't know.
Well, you touched on a lot of good points there. No, it's actually great, because what I want to talk about is, there has been there's economic inequality. There are so many different issues within society that we can touch on. There's the defunding of schools. There is the facts that our infrastructure is complete shit. There are communities that are over policed. This is not just one small issue. one thing that I've learned is that violence is a process. It's not something that just manifests itself in some single instance in time. It happens over a period of time. And if someone's life results in violence, if they are prone to violence, it is because of a process that we need to inspect that process. And if you just ignore that, then you're ignoring the very reason that these riots are going on in the first place. And you're just going to point at those people and you're going to say, hey, those people are rioting. That's bad. Well, why are they rioting? What is behind all of this? Is it just George Floyd, or were there additional things people were already upset about over a long enough period of time to put them in a position where they felt like they needed to lash out, even if it is left-wing mobs or Antifa or whatever you want to call it, right? Well, what's making them do all of this? They're angry. So whether or not it's a right-wing mob doing it or a left-wing mob, if it's the left wing, well, my my guess is that they're fucking angry. Pardon my language. And if it's a right wing, well, then they're infiltrators and they're getting in there so they can stir shit up and they can create horrible public opinion about these protests, which have been otherwise, for the most part, been good, you know. So I don't know. I don't know. It's unfortunate, you know, like, you know, years from now we may never get the full picture of this, but the New York Times received 60 videos of police harassing protesters,
There's
peaceful
a
protesters.
there's threads of this. There's like one
Yeah,
lawyer who just like, I don't know if you've seen this lawyer. He has literally a thread count of every
every
video.
single video.
Yeah.
I
And,
actually bookmarked one of those. Maybe we might just jump on that later,
yeah.
if we have time. But you can find all this stuff. There are countless instances. I saw a video of a guy in New York City. A police officer walked up to them, pulled down his mask, and maced him in his face and mouth. Like, are you kidding me? So, you know,
I mean,
before you start to tell me like, oh, these rioters have no reason to be rioting, well, you know, I really hate to say stuff like this, but you really got to make a comparison to what's happening on the other side here. Are they being violent? Oh, well, then now those people are allowed to be violent, but these people are not allowed to be violent over here. So it's total bullshit if you're on this one side but you're not on this other side. You need to be able to see both sides of this picture here.
it's true. I mean, just let's talk about this slide specifically.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like
No, you're
insanity.
right. I've just realized we haven't even really addressed the slide here, but go on.
The fact that like you have these 5 people who vote no to arm police, military. I don't even understand how this makes any sense. How this even like came about.
Right.
Like the police have like military weapons. It's just like we can't stop making the military weapons. We gotta give it to the local communities. We gotta give the local police to
Right.
harass. I mean, I just like what? What? Somebody even brought up this the other day. It's just like if your taillight's broken, why are you getting a guy with a gun approaching you?
Right.
Like what?
Like what
You're
is,
not
you
wearing
know,
a helmet when you're on a bike. Like why
right.
do you have a guy? How do you have 2 guys come?
Yeah.
Like why do you need that?
Well, here's the argument, right? The argument is always the argument is always like, well, a police officer is going to approach a person with a taillight because if that person in the car is dangerous, then the police officer has protection to protect themselves. Well, hear me out. Here's my counter argument is if we create a system where it's not a police officer approaching that person, then the expectation from the person in the car is that they're not going to have to worry about losing their life, right? So if we create a better system where we can address that in a sensible way, I know like at the moment I say that people are going to be like, oh, that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. There's no way. So people are violent, this and that. No, you have to open your minds to creating a better system. I would rather be empathetic and try and get hurt trying to be empathetic than just shut down everything and hurt others, because that's a ridiculous mindset, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I mean, even at that point, like what at this point? like, even like throughout the years and like all this stuff and all the people, not even black people, like regular people who died like at police, or all the people who are incarcerated because of police, because of minor drug offenses, or died because of like the drug war and all this
Right.
stuff. It's like, even now, like right now, like, okay,
Right.
all that stuff happened. Like, we didn't fight. Nobody's out protesting. Now people out protesting. And you're like, no. That's fine. That stuff is fine. You're
Right.
like,
All of that stuff is fine.
oh, that's
They
totally
deserved it.
cool.
They were doing something illegal. They deserved it. They should have been murdered over something that was like their business, really.
What was
Right?
it? Trump got interviewed, and they um, like, George Floyd died, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, he died. They killed white people too. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait, what?
That's also not okay.
Is this an art?
It
Like,
is. It is also not okay for any race of people to die for that reason. If that is the benchmark, if getting a knee on your neck and being murdered in front of witnesses on a public street, if that is your benchmark, then we've already lost as a society. We're already morally bankrupt as a society.
it's like,
There's no recovering from that.
like there's no the only alternative for these people is like, give the police more money, like give them more.
Right. Because
Like,
Joe Biden immediately went to go give them more money, and now Donald Trump, as we're going to see later, has used certain powers that he has been afforded by a previous president, who I'm going to keep it a surprise, uh, but has been afforded a power to actually take these kinds of federal action against these quote rioters and these protesters, right? And so it's just really fascinating to me. But yeah, you have this saying this is such an amazing tweet. As long as they're trained to protect people's constitutional rights, they're going to be able to have military equipment. These state and local police. That's not right. That's not
usually
good at
not
all.
what's even happening right now. Like, technically, what should be happening is the police should be, of course, arresting looters and whoever.
Right.
But now they're just arresting everybody.
Yeah, I really like it's
Anybody who's on the street. Because
yeah,
I
because
saw, I saw somebody got arrested just for, like, they were staying at one night in, I forget where this is. I'm gonna be I feel really bad forgetting this. I probably shouldn't mention this because I don't remember. But they said one night in a hotel, and then they just went out to look at the protesters, and they just like blanket arrested 80 people.
oh my god,
It's like, isn't even participating in the protest.
that's insane. That's completely insane. And people, the thing is there are people who are like, well, it's completely legal. No, it's not completely legal. It's not complete. There needs to be probable cause.
Yeah.
And if you don't have probable cause, then you cannot arrest anybody. I don't care what you think, but that is still, luckily, one of the laws that we have in society.
It's also not constitutional.
It's
Like,
also unconstitutional. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like,
and then you have the 90 people in the Senate, which means a lot of Democrats voted for this too.
oh,
So
yeah.
like and you have Booker, Harris, Markey, Sanders, and Warren who didn't vote for it, but they didn't have to vote for it. That's the thing, is like they already knew
Harris is such a,
yeah, it's like, all right, well, we're just gonna take we're just gonna virtue signal with our vote here. And so, I like this guy underneath. He says Booker, Warren, and Harris voted yes to a military budget increase, but no to fascism. So like, what is, what kind of cognitive dissonance needs to be going on in order for you to say yes to one and no to another? But I actually heard recently it's looking more and more like Kamala Harris is going to be Joe Biden's vice presidential pick. So
I'm not surprised. I was going to be pretty convinced it was going to be either her or Rice, even Condoleezza Rice.
Condoleezza Rice?
Why not? She was in the Obama administration too.
I know, but like, I know, but
she's not in vogue right now.
Dude, I just hate that human being, you know, like,
I mean,
I mean, you know,
give it some time. You'll hate Harris even more, maybe eventually.
I already hate Kamala Harris. I think I think like she put prisoners to work for like $1 a day or something like that to fight to fight fires in California. And then on top of that, when they get out of prison, they then cannot get a job as a firefighter. So you train prisoners to become a firefighter, and then when you get out of prison, you can't fight fires for the state. Like you you proved that you can do the job while you're working while you're in prison, but for some reason you can't do that job when you're out of prison, right? It's like now that you're making a steady income and you get a pension and all that stuff, you can't do that job for some reason. So you know, the best time my favorite time I ever saw Kamala Harris was when Tulsi Gabbard was tearing her a new one during the debate.
That was awesome.
And then Anderson Cooper made her watch Tulsi Gabbard tear her a new one. Oh, that was one of my favorite things that I'd seen. All right, we're gonna go on from the slide. You ready?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, let's go.
So this leads into the next point. So now you have the state and local police who are able to use military style weapons. Now you also have the feds who are coming in. Well, the feds are of course going to be using what? Military style weapons. And so here's the headline from the news review. Federal officers deployed in Portland didn't have proper training, DHS memo said. Portland, the federal agents facing a growing backlash for their militarized approach to weeks of unrest in Portland were not specifically trained in riot control or mass demonstrations, an internal Department of Homeland Security memo warned this past week. We actually have the document here to corroborate this. It's not like this is just, you know, they're not just making some unsubstantiated claim. The message, dated Thursday, was prepared by this agency for Chad F. Wolf, the acting secretary of Homeland Security, as he arrived in Portland to view the scene in person. According to a copy of the memo obtained by the New York Times, it listed federal buildings in the city and issues officers faced in protecting them. The memo, seemingly anticipating future encounters with protesters in other cities as the department follows President Donald Trump's guidance to crack down on unrest, warns, moving forward, if this type of response is going to be the norm, specialized training and standardized equipment should be deployed to responding agencies, which is, of course, not what we need here. What we need is for someone to meet us halfway. That's what we need here. We need for people to come out and be like, offer us a freaking olive branch. Offer us something. Figure out a way to temper the mood. Because right now, you're just fighting these people with violence, and it's just going to make more people upset. And it's never going to end. This is never going to end in a successful way or in a peaceable way if they continue to fight this with violence.
I'm like, what is the end game here?
Exactly.
No, but like, realistically, what's the end game? Because like, the police aren't listening to the Oregon officials. They're not listening to like, hey, don't fraternize with the DHS. And they're like, okay, we want the federal agents out. Like, if the police aren't listening and the federal agents aren't listening, then
exactly.
Yeah, this armed militia versus this, like, citizens.
Right. So, well, the citizens, if you're a supporter of the Second Amendment, and what good is the Second Amendment if you can't use it to fight against the tyranny that it was created for? So I just don't understand the logic from people who look at these protesters and they say, like, you got to go home. You can't do. No, these amendments were created for this exact reason. And now you're going to tell them to shut up. You're going to tell them to go home. You're going to call people stupid for thinking that they should empathize with people who have suffered their entire lives. Maybe not. Maybe there's just people there who do want to start some shit. But the fact of the matter is, largely, for the most part, people don't just get out of their homes and decide that they're going to burn things to the ground. There has to be a reason. So the article continues, the pushback against the militarized federal deployment involving officers in fatigues and tactical gear has also extended to the streets, where the presence of those federal agents has rejuvenated a movement that had shown signs of finally slowing down after weeks of protest against police violence and militarization. So there it is. It's counterproductive. Because people are going to see this. They're going to be like, well, fuck that. I'm going to get out on the streets and I'm going to go protest even more now.
Yeah, it'll keep people coming out of state to just go to Portland.
Right. Well, I heard people were coming from Seattle to go to Portland.
Yeah.
So, like, great job, guys. Hundreds continued to demonstrate after midnight Saturday, playing music, holding shields, tearing down temporary fences, and throwing fireworks at the county's Justice Center.
The irony.
Oh my God. So this is that memo. You can find this. This is available on the internet. Just
thank you for doing the actual work, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for actually bringing a literal memo from the Homeland Security and putting it up here.
Well, if you don't put this
exactly what we need.
If you don't put this in people's faces, what I've learned is they'll call you names, and so I don't. I mean, they'll probably still call me names. I actually love it. I look at the comments and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like,
you gotta make a list. You gotta save them.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna make a list of all the great comments we've gotten, and I'm just gonna read them out loud. We'll do it. We'll do that at the we'll do like our favorite comments segment. It'll be amazing. So this is the memo here that was. I think this was an actual leak. So don't quote me on that, but I believe this was a leak. And it says I'm just going to read the highlighted section, that the U.S. Attorney's Office appears to be aggressively charging individuals, but clarification by the U.S. Attorney for DHS agency leadership would be beneficial. Yeah, this is such a weirdly written sentence that it makes me want to like blow my brains out, because why are you charging people if you aren't providing clarification? So it continues. I'm looking at letter C here. The highly skilled tactical teams assigned to support the civil unrest and riots do not specifically have training in riot control or mass demonstrations. So this is what we read previously that was quoted in the article. Moving forward, if this type of response is going to be the norm, specialized training and standardized equipment should be deployed to responding agencies. And I just kind of blew that up right here. It's not super. The resolution isn't great, so I apologize. And so you can just see that up close and personal. But this is the reality of the situation, man. It's just these leaks keep coming out, exposing these agencies as being duplicitous, mendacious, using two-faced tactics, saying one thing, doing something completely different. We saw this with Andrew Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio when they were playing good cop, bad cop for like 3 weeks while the protests were going on here in New York City.
Interesting analogy.
Well, think about it. I mean, Andrew Cuomo was like, I don't like what you guys are doing, the cops are doing in New York City. And then Mayor Bill de Blasio was like, well, I'm going to do whatever I want. So, go eat a spoonful of dicks and fuck off. And you know what? At the end of the day, Governor Andrew Cuomo he still did a horrible job during this entire pandemic, which I know is outside of the. Sorry,
yeah, he wasn't shutting down anything early either.
Right. So it just goes to show you that it's just word salad that comes out of these people's mouths, and then people buy it, right? And then people have to dissect this stuff and be like, wait, but the damage has already been done at that point. So,
I mean, it's actually like something could happen. This the fact that this memo exists is like, is there not another memo that says, hey, how about we try something different, where we like suggest some policies?
Yeah, right.
Like we're gonna talk to the union, so we're gonna like how about we like change? But like no, they are fighting to do this. They are fighting to continue to do the same thing. Just
they're making it worse, and they're using these riots as justification to make it worse,
yeah.
which is how they accelerate the military state in this country. And you can call it what you want. You can call it fascism. You can apply whatever name you want to it. I call it a police state. I think that's exactly what this is, and we're going to see later exactly why that's the case, on top of what we've already discussed here. So moving on, let's talk about, why is Donald Trump allowed to deploy federal troops? Well, you may have heard of this thing called the National Defense Authorization, the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. And what Obama did, so this was the surprise president from before, back in 2011, on December 31st, Obama signed the NDAA, codifying indefinite military detention without charge or trial into law for the first time in American history. The NDAA's dangerous detention provisions would authorize the president and all future presidents, so that's the key here, all future presidents, to order the military to pick up and indefinitely imprison people captured anywhere in the world, far from any battlefield. So this just gives, so anywhere in the world means here in the United States as well. I don't know why the ACLU was the only one to talk about this back in 2012.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you know that I don't know if you know the context of this? This is 2012. This is only 2001. Like,
yeah. This is 11 years after 9/11.
Yeah, like, what is this? Like, what is the context?
Yeah, what is actually going on here? Because at this point, so Osama bin Laden had already been murdered, had already been assassinated at this point, or executed, whatever you want to call it, at this point. So, because he was executed in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
So the war on terror should have been, that's it. Good job, guys. Let's go home. Now it's time to broker some treaties so that we can make some peace with these countries. And that's not what they did. So this just basically gave Obama unlimited authority, effectively, because if you combine this with the Patriot Act and like this is effectively basically habeas corpus. So you're talking about the Fourth and Fifth Amendments are completely gone in the United States of America. And when I say that, I don't mean they're not there. I just mean that the government can just nitpick and just decide not to apply it whenever they want and take you and hold you somewhere. And that's exactly what happened, is that what we were talking about last week was there was a person who got picked up and he got held, and they didn't even explain to him why they were holding him. And then they released him. They didn't charge him. They didn't read him his Miranda rights. They didn't tell him where he was going. They didn't tell anyone else where he was going. So
this is like, we're gonna vote for Biden, by the way. That makes total sense. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's the crazy thing about it, is
he was the vice president of this crap.
Right, he was the vice president. Oh yeah, let's not forget.
He was the conservative one, right? Isn't he supposed to be the conservative one of Obama?
Right, he was supposed to be the conservative one.
Like that guy.
I saw one of those charts where it has like the four squares.
Yeah.
On the right, it's right-wing candidates for the presidency, and on the left, it's like left-wing candidates for the presidency, right? And like Bernie Sanders is like, he's not even all the way to the left. He's like a moderate left-wing candidate for president, and Joe Biden is on the right wing. He's only slightly less right-wing than Donald Trump.
I don't know how they make those graphs.
Well, I'm sure they're going by policies.
Yeah, there's like, probably.
Like, what have you voted for? Is this considered a right-wing policy or a left-wing policy? You know, that type of stuff. So, but him and Donald Trump they're in the same area in terms of like where they are, and that's the choice that we have in this country. Is like, do you want right-wing fascist A, or do you want polite right-wing fascist B? You know, like you make your choice. You
wouldn't say everything the quiet part loud.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Or say anything.
Right. Donald Trump's idea is we're going to do the Southern strategy, but we're just going to say everything instead of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So
This is it.
what do
This
you
is
mean?
what we have right now.
Yeah, that's the where we are in our country. Isn't that amazing? That is, but it's like totally. I'm like garbling my words right now. I can't even. I'm stammering. I can't even construct a sentence because like there's so much to deconstruct in terms of how we got here. But we're here, and how do we get out of this? I don't know how. So the article continues. I just got like really depressed all of a sudden. The article continues. The breadth of the NDAA's worldwide detention authority violates the Constitution and international law because it is not limited to people captured in an actual armed conflict, as required by the laws of war. So apparently, war has
I want to read those laws.
Yeah, I want to read those wars.
Apparently, no tear gas too. Tear gas.
Unless it's on your own citizens, I say.
Conflict, yeah. Unless you're your own citizens, that's okay. Has to be conflict. Laws of war are sounding really good right now.
Right.
Like this sounding better than the laws of not war.
Well, they're combining the two now. So the laws of war, they're combining it now with the laws of not war, and so
I mean
that's why we're in a military state.
It's pretty obvious. Nobody's reading the laws of war and not war because we missed. I mean, people didn't care. Should give a shit about this. People don't care about citizens like bombing school buses in Yemen.
They don't give a shit. They don't care that like they don't care that, and this is something that we might cover later. The fact that the OPCW came out and said that the entire premise for bombing Damascus in 2017 was a lie. There were lead scientists, veteran scientists at the organization who had their documents deliberately covered up by the head of the OPCW. They were told specifically to take those documents out of the report, which gave the United States a reason to go bomb that country. People don't care. They don't even care. They don't give a shit. They don't care about Yemen. They don't care about Syria. They don't care about Afghanistan, Iraq, all of these countries that the United States has decimated. Libya, for example, like it's crazy. They turned Libya into a failed state. They have open slave trading there. It used to be a prosperous country, but they always use the same excuse. They always say that we want to help the people in that country. And we're going to see
here, right? They're helping people right now.
They're helping people. By spraying them with like a great do you see like the discharge from the tear gas canisters that they use? It's like it just freaking it's crazy.
I love how they helped the homeless man. Sorry, they helped was he homeless and also in a wheelchair or just in a wheelchair? They like took the guy, they took him out of the wheelchair, beat him, and then they took the wheelchair and they took the wheelchair apart.
Yeah, they broke his wheelchair, right?
The most helpful thing. He totally wanted that, by the way. I'm like, can you please beat me and take apart my motor?
Right. That guy was rioting, right? That's like you could, but here's the thing: you could show that to people, and they will parrot the same talking points.
Yeah. Like he shouldn't have been in the way.
He shouldn't have been there.
Unlawful
shouldn't be rioting. You're covering for rioters. This and that.
I
see this. Sorry.
He's probably spilled his coffee on the courthouse. You can't do that.
You there with the coffee? Yeah. Just start beating me. This is unconstitutional. Under the Bush administration, similar claims of worldwide detention authority were used to hold even a U.S. citizen captured on U.S. soil in military custody, and many in Congress assert that the NDAA should be used in the same way. The ACLU does not believe the NDAA authorizes military detention of American citizens or anyone else in the United States. Any president's claim of domestic military detention authority under the NDAA would be unconstitutional and illegal. Nevertheless, there is substantial public debate around whether the NDAA could be read even to repeal the Posse Comitatus Act and authorize indefinite military detention without charge or trial without the United States.
Within the United States.
Sorry?
Within the United States.
Without charge or trial within the United States. Thank you. And so what that effectively means is that we don't have habeas corpus anymore. Due process. It's gone. And now they've manufactured a slippery slope of legislation where it's only going to get worse in society. And so they've figured out a way for you to be able to go to the grocery store, but if you're upset about anything, they can detain you, and they don't have to explain why they're detaining you. And Angela and I, my wife and I, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked a lot about how it's a very polite society in some ways. Like, there are benefits to being in the society because you can go down the street and you can feel safe, but at the same time,
that's not even true anymore.
It's not even, I know it's not even necessarily true. I'm just saying, like, even within our neighborhood, like, we go to the grocery store, we can come home and not feel like, if we're smart, reasonable adults, we can make it home, right? But like, and I know that's not the case everywhere, obviously.
Places with everybody everywhere, but yeah, I see.
Right. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're saying it's guilty, and you have to prove yourself innocent, supposedly.
Right. Well, that's the thing is,
I mean, now, you can't even. I don't know. He already got you, so what's the point?
Yeah, and they don't have to release you, and nobody has to know that you're gone. You may not get the phone call or a lawyer or anything. Like, look at what they're doing to Julian Assange right now. They're psychologically torturing that man.
Horrible.
And he's not the only one that this government has psychologically tortured. They do it to a lot of people who are deemed political prisoners in the United States of America. They won't even put certain political prisoners in the same area as other prisoners in the same prison, because that political prisoner may educate those other prisoners and create an uprising.
A union.
Yeah, exactly. Right, a union in a prison. There needs to be a prisoners union.
No, that'd be amazing.
That'd be crazy, right?
Raise the $1. We want like fucking $5.
Yeah, right.
And bring it back up.
No, we're not doing this.
The next sentence is just phenomenal.
The next sentence,
like fucking flabbergasting.
This what I'm about to read here.
I can't even say a good word. Anyway, go ahead. Words.
I'll just read it.
Just say the word.
So it's in the second paragraph, the highlighted section. Although President Obama issued a signing statement saying he had, quote, serious reservations about the NDAA's detention provisions, the statement only applies to how his administration would use them and would not affect how the law is interpreted by subsequent administrations. Like, you have to be like, think about the long-term schematic here, right?
He thought about it already. Which is just like, he's like, oh, I don't know how other people are going to use this. I'm worried.
Yeah, I don't know. There'll never.
Worried. I'm signing the bill.
There'll never be. I'll never provoke an authoritarian right-wing lunatic and force him to run for president under a racist platform and actually win, and then use this 3 years into his first term, right?
Where is that guy now, by the way?
Obama?
Yeah, what is he doing?
I don't know. I bet he's still kite surfing with Richard Branson.
Richard Branson bites over a lot of people.
Yeah, he does. A lot of powerful people are allowed to go over to Richard Branson's island.
He will move, like, he'll go and he'll like say, hey, Biden, gotta win. You gotta, hey, all you other like people, we gotta defeat Bernie here. He'll come out of his like whatever, his fucking bullshit mansion, sorry. And he'll do that. He'll do that. But he won't, like, I want like, this is we're all other presidents. We're all other presidents. I don't
What do
know.
you mean?
No, they still. I'm sorry. They should totally be against all this stuff.
Well,
They
yeah,
they have to be marching. They have to be like this. I don't care if they're retired. I don't care. Like maybe if they're like in a hospital, like dying, like that's a big deal. But like, come on. This
right.
well, obviously we know where he is. He's an idiot who just signed this thing, and he's like, oh yeah, that thing. Oh whoops.
Are you talking? You're talking about Obama?
Yeah, I'm talking about Obama now. Yeah, like whoa, whoops.
Well, no,
I knew it.
well,
I knew it.
no one's even challenging him on this. No one's even challenging him on this. They don't
And
even bring it up.
Michelle's like, oh, I told you, and he's like, yeah, I know, but the thing, it was the time.
Right.
People were like looking at me.
Yeah.
Had the pen. I was like, blank space.
Well, Michelle, I got a notification. I logged into Spotify the other day, and I got a notification to it. Like, was a banner that told me to listen to Michelle Obama's podcast. I was like, I'd rather eat a lot of dirty things than listen to your podcast.
And
You do not represent what is right in this country. Neither does Barack Obama, because it's all pontificating, it's all platitudes. He's just really well spoken about them.
yeah.
And that's the only difference between him and Donald Trump, unfortunately, is, you can say what you want about Obama being a better character, having a better personality. I agree with all that stuff. Maybe not the better character part, but the better personality for sure.
Character.
Right? Yeah, because character would embody a lot of why he signed this legislation, right? So, but here's the crazy thing. The same people who hate Barack Obama love this. Love that Donald Trump is doing this today.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah, it's crazy. So
it's like, guys, you got to give Obama credit for Trump. You got to give him some credit.
right.
Complete.
Yeah, give him a little credit, right? On the right wing. for creating an authoritarian state.
The guy who admitted these policies are basically Republican policies.
Which he admitted in an interview.
Yeah,
He was like, he said, I governed like a moderate Republican in an interview. So I don't know why conservatives had such a problem with him. He was already on your side.
More Jimmy Dore. I think I don't know this for sure. Wasn't Obama was he a constitutional lawyer?
I believe so.
Yeah. So this is just fucking bullshit. This is like, he knew it's against the Constitution, and he's like, I don't know. This is like basically like throwing 10 statues like into a lake, isn't it?
You're right.
Or like 20 statues,
Right. Exactly. This is like throwing all of society's statues into the metaphorical lake, and then nobody got upset about it at all. Nobody got upset about this at all.
Well, I mean,
except for the ACLU.
Yeah.
So it continues. Let's get through this slide. The provisions, which were negotiated by a small group of members of Congress in secret. Why didn't I highlight that line? And without proper congressional review, are inconsistent with fundamental American values.
How did this pass? I don't understand. These Congress people are horrible.
Because it's all under the guise of national defense, right? But as we found out, they end up using that stuff here at home. The public just doesn't find out about it until it actually happens. But until then, people are like, they'd never do that. They'd never do that.
Those last two lines of this.
Isn't that just amazing? This paragraph is amazing, by the way. This paragraph is incredible. So it goes on. Both Congress and the president need to clean up the mess they have created. No one should live in fear of this or any future president misusing the NDAA's detention authority. The NDAA's detention provisions must be repealed. So that never happened. And we're going to continue on to Marianne Williamson next. Do you want to? We're gonna see we're gonna continue on in this because the whole point of this podcast today is feds, and the military state. This isn't a small issue. This is a very complicated issue. There's so much detail to cover. There's so much minutia. And unfortunately, we have to do a podcast in the middle of all of the craziness that's happening in society right now. And so we can only pick a handful of things to really cover. There's just too much. This is crazy. I feel like we're doing a normal thing in very abnormal times, which is podcasting, right?
Sometimes I'm not gonna get into it. I don't want to jump into it.
Sometimes what?
Sometimes I think, sometimes I think the podcasting part of it, just like, I don't know, like we gotta like, doesn't make any sense.
I don't think I'm not following you. I'll be honest.
You're not really following me. It's just like, I mean, I see it like this. Like we're like a tiny dot in like an ocean. I don't know what the dot. I guess a drop. Let's say it's a drop, not a dot.
Right.
We're like polluting it.
Okay.
That might be a better analogy for people who hate political podcasts. Tiny drop in an ocean. But then, like, if we're all the ocean, if everybody knows about this, more people know about this NDA. Like, I wasn't aware of this until you brought it up.
Right.
That's great.
Right. I mean, so that's great, right? I like what you did there. No, I'm serious, because I read something recently that was like, if everybody wore a mask, you can reduce the transmission rates. If 95% of people wore a mask, you reduce the transmission rates of COVID-19 significantly.
I read somewhere 80% is just crazy. I read somewhere that it was 80% if everybody wore a mask.
Whichever number you want to go with, the higher the percentage of people that wear masks, the more exponential the benefit in the long term in terms of the transference rate of COVID-19. And so you look at it the same way. Even if we influence a handful of people, 30 people, 100 people, we end up influencing the right people, it becomes exponential. And then it ends up growing, and those people can influence other people. And that is really the goal here is, I mean, I'll be completely honest. The reason I wanted to do this podcast is twofold. One, I was pissed off all the time. And two, you contacted me and you were like, let's get that podcast started. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And then three, this is the perfect time for people to be using their voice to get out there and to be talking about these kinds of things. Yeah. And we're like planning on actually getting out there and potentially interviewing people at a certain point in time so that we can bring back better, so we can actually be doing some journalism and we can actually be bringing back things to report on, as opposed to just reporting on other people's work. But the goal right now is just to create a story, is just to, hey, how did we get here? That's it. That's all I want to do is, how did we get here? Let's make sense of these things. And also just like doing a podcast with you, man. You're a great guy. So, you know, that's yeah.
I'm a tidy guy. Can't make enough jokes about this background.
So,
I don't know how I hooked up this part. This is a little tough. This like curve.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's,
super bad for like putting books on this part, but like
so funny. You got to get a new interior decorator, man.
I know. I
start working on that.
You only take so many things, you know.
I hear you.
I'm following an interior decorator Twitters, or following like the progressive Twitter.
All right. Oh man.